Report out of closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The Emeryville City Council and the Mesa Board met in closed session on the items listed in the closed session agenda. For all of the items under Section 5, an update was provided and direction was given. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's 7:16. First meeting is adjourned. Let's get to the next one. It's 7:16 p.m. and I call to order the City of Emeryville as a successor agency to the Emeryville Redevelopment Agency. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders.
Here.
Councilmember Donahue.
Here.
Councilmember Martinez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pats.
Here.
And Mayor Medina.
Here. Approval of final agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Member Martinez and a second by Member Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders.
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue.
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats.
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. Any ex parte communications to report? Seeing none. Any public comment for consent agenda items or items not on this agenda?
Is this the city council meeting or is this the redevelopment agency?
This is redevelopment agency. No comments. All right. Consent agenda.
Move consent. Second.
We've got a motion by Vice Mayor Pats and a second by Member Martinez. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders.
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue.
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats.
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. All right. This meeting is adjourned at 7:18. It is 7:18 p.m. and I'm calling to order the City Council meeting of the City of Emeryville. We are all still present. Can I get an approval of the final agenda?
Do I vote consent now or in consent?
In consent.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders.
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue.
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats.
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. Any special orders of the day? None, Mayor. Thank you. Announcement of commission or committee vacancies.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. At the June 18th special meeting, you'll be conducting interviews and making appointments for the Planning Commission and Community Advisory Committees.
Thank you. Any council member special announcements or reports on meetings attended? Member Bouders?
I just wanted to report out that I attended the annual Alameda County Transportation Commission retreat all day last Thursday in Oakland, and we had presentations on a number of items related to goods and freight movement, active transit safety, and the upcoming capital improvement plan and process for the county. And I'm available to talk about that with anyone in further detail if they wish.
All right. Any others? Nope. City manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a report, but really just an acknowledgement that we stand with our colleagues in Virginia Beach in their grief. We're all one small city at times like this, and we just wanted to acknowledge that as city staff, that we're holding them in our hearts.
Thank you. Any ex parte communications to report? I have none. Anyone?
Sorry.
It's okay. We can take a second. Better to get it right. Nope. Okay. No ex parte communications. Public comment for consent agenda items or items not on the agenda.
Okay, this tool here is going to be my new go-to tool when making public comments because there's nothing that, there's a record, a recorded record of the doings and goings on here at the council chamber. So there's, since there's a record, it's when I find contradictions and contradictory behavior, I'm going to point it out via this little tool here, this wonderful little iPhone that can record what you guys have said. So here, so now take us back to the December of 2015. The council was talking, I'm sorry, it was February of 2015, March perhaps, early 2015. The council was talking about, should we do a moratorium on residential buildings in Emeryville? Because the problem was we're not getting a family-friendly housing unit mix and we're not getting enough affordable housing because the developers and are just not giving it to us. And should we have this moratorium? And here's what Councilwoman Diane Martinez said in 2015 regarding the moratorium, and well, let's let her word speak.
I think that the idea that we're trying to stop development in Emeryville is ludicrous. As Jack stated, we have increased our rental housing by a huge amount, and our population by a huge amount in the last 20 years.
Okay, so our population and our rentals have gone up by a huge amount, said Councilwoman Martinez in 2015. Don't worry, the rest of you guys, your turn's coming after Ms. Martinez. So Ms. Martinez said our population's is way up in the last 20 years, she said in 2015. And then we move forward to a few months ago. Now here's what Councilwoman is saying now. This is regarding the Ani project. Should we build the Ani project with 1,100 new residents? Should we build this? Do we need this? Here's what Councilwoman Martinez said.
One huge project that could employ a lot of people at fair wages and create a lot of housing in a time that we really need it.
Okay, so we went from having a lot of housing. We've built a lot of housing over the last 20 years. We have an excess amount of housing, huge amount. She said huge. Now, 2 years later, 2.5 years later, now we really need housing. So with no new information, it went from we have plenty of housing, we built a ton of it, to we really need it. So, I'm kind of wondering, like, which one is it? Is it, do we really need housing? Or is it your previous statement a couple years earlier where we built a lot of housing and we don't need a lot more housing? Just which one do you want to stand by? Thank you.
Any other public comment for consent agenda or items not on this agenda? Nope. Okay. Consent agenda.
So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item 10.9.
Okay. Is that a motion?
So I'll move that we approve items 10.1 through 10.8.
Can I make a friendly amendment? I submitted to the clerk a couple of very small spelling corrections on 10.4. And with that, I'll second
Certainly.
your motion.
Great. All right. We've got a motion by Vice Mayor Pats and a second by Member Martinez. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. So we will do 10.9 next. Okay. I'd like to open this up for Councilmember Bouders to start us off.
I would like, Member Pats actually pulled it, so maybe we should let Member Pats speak.
So I'm going to kind of divide this up into 2 parts, with the second one having 2 parts, so 3 parts. The first is I fully support the ongoing part of this resolution to fly the pride flag every June in perpetuity. I think that's a brilliant idea, and I was surprised we hadn't adopted that, so I'll thank Member Bouders for that to begin with. My challenge with the other half of this is the support for the City of Dublin. And again, this is one of those ideas that I really do support. My challenge with it is the way that it got framed, and I got very inside my head. I have a trigger when people use the phrase, it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. I'm really big on be open, be direct, and I feel like the framing of this, the city got involved, while something I know we will all support, presented as something we had already agreed to, and that struck me as odd. And while I was doing that, a constituent was like, why don't we raise 3 flags? And I thought, okay, now we're taking something that's a good idea and an amazing, important cause at this time, and we're devaluing it. And so I tried to move away from that, and my teacher brain kicked in of, let's not quibble, instead let's talk about what we want, and let's model how we can have those conversations. And so I'm going to add a friendly piece to this and take somebody else's, I again, I don't want to use pejorative terms, somebody else's presentation and add my own personal agenda to it. As we get into Pride Month, it has been more and more clear that it's the T in the LGBTQ world that is bearing the brunt of the spear. And for me, that is the community right now that needs as much as support. Sadly, all communities need a lot of support right now under the current administration, but that is the current thing, community, and it's a cause close to my heart. I've been working with the school district or against the school district to get them to name the gym after former community member Steve Dane, who transitioned in the 70s and really became a pioneer for the community. And so my friendly amendment is, I'll wait. My friendly amendment is that we add on the flying after the ceremony of when we take down and give the second flag to Dublin to fly, which I think it looks like they're going to do, that we then raise the transgender flag for the month of June as well, since we will have the capacity to fly all 4 flags. I think that really will send a message. And then I ask Member Bowders that while you have this event, that you mention, invite the school district, because I think it's important for them to see this, and at that very public event, encourage them to fix their error from 40 years ago and name the gym after Steve Dane. So that is my long-winded request, and so that would be my motion for approval with that amendment. Was that enough clarity, or I'm sort of looking at this?
I understand the motion would be to fly the transgender flag once we have removed the Dublin flag.
Correct. I don't want to step on that ceremony.
Okay. That motion is heard and understood. Member Bowders, would you like to speak? Or, I've got some words as well.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I actually would like to open it for public comment because it was pulled from consent, and we've heard the reasons it was pulled from consent, and I have comments after we've heard from the public.
Let's do that. All right, public comment. Please.
Hello, good evening, council and mayor. So I've come here to support the decision of raising of the second flag, and thank you so much for including the transgender flag too. So historically, cities and states have not been inclusive to the LGBT community. In 1978, Harvey Milk was one of the first openly gay public officials, and it was assassinated in his office. And it now what is known to be the most queer-friendly cities. And even now, folks who identify as part of the LGBT community are still not fully protected from discrimination in 30 states. On top of that, in 2019, the Human Rights Campaign report identified that at least 26 transgenders deaths, most of them being Black trans women. These events reflect that homophobia, specifically transphobia, is still a large social issue. So as for the rainbow flag, it means so much more than just pride. It's a symbol of the civil rights that we fought for, and it's also fuel for us to continue the fight and preserve the fundamental civil rights that we still have and that are currently being threatened still. So before my time is up, I wanted to thank you, Councilmember John Bowders, and your bravery in standing against hate. So personally, before I was growing up, being a queer Latino, I didn't feel I was safe or included to be in local government. But seeing as folks as yourself and seeing the flag on government institutions reminds me that I am welcome and that I am safe. So I want to encourage the council to raise those flags and to allow all residents of the city of Emeryville that they do belong and that they are safe. And also to lead the way for other cities and other folks around the state that may not have those safe spaces. And let them know that it's okay to be queer, fierce, and be in local government too. That's
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's really sweet.
Okay, I listened to what Council Member Pat said, and it was a little confusing. I understand it because I read the accompanying paperwork, so viewers might not know really. It wasn't that made that clear, but essentially what being asked here tonight is that we're going to have 2 rainbow flags out on the pole out there, and because of a city that's in the Bay Area, I guess it's Dublin, is refusing to fly a rainbow flag over their city. So Emeryville is going to do it for them, I guess. So Councilmember Pats just said that that's kind of, there's some problems with flying two flags, you know, not the least of which, this is what my take on it, he's shaking his head, not the least of which is like the message is being diluted. Dilute, not delude, diluted. And so I think there is something to that. And I agree about the trans community. That's the community that seems to be more sort of in peril's way nowadays. So instead of two rainbow flags, I think it's better to have a rainbow flag and then a trans flag. And I think that's a better way to go. And especially with owing to the fact that our community, we are talking about Steve Dane and whether or not we should name our gym at our school Steve Dane Gymnasium, and because that person was employed by the Emory Unified School District, and he transitioned, and then he was fired for that by our school district. And so I think this would go a long ways towards helping people recognize the mistake that we made back in the 70s when we fired Steve Dane. And I think I support Mr. Patz's amendment. I think that's a good idea to fly have the rainbow flag and the trans flag out there on the flagpole instead of two rainbow flags. Thank you.
Public comment? Okay. If there's any no further public comment, we'll open it up. I understand that you probably wish to clarify.
Point of personal privilege, Al.
Go for it.
So again, my objection was not the raising of the two flags. I don't think it dilutes it because it was a very clear messaging that this was to encourage, which I think Dublin is now going to do, to fly the flag. To me, it was the process being skipped over, and that was my challenge to it, not the two flags. And again, trying to just use the process appropriately to further my political agenda.
Thank you. Okay, if I may make some comments on this, I followed this very closely and was contacted by Councilmember Bowders pretty shortly after the Dublin Council meeting, prior to, I think, him publicizing the idea to put up their pride flag. And I was immediately supportive of it. And I don't think this is really a case of just asking for forgiveness rather than permission, because we operate on a certain time frame as a local government body. And I don't think it was misrepresented to the public that the council had voted on this. I do think people maybe had the impression that this definitely was going to happen, and we do know that we are pretty progressive up here. But there was an impetus to act quickly in the face of pretty outrageously homophobic comments. And one thing I noticed when I was watching that council meeting was that council members, we are allowed to respond when the public comes up to the dais. We don't do it very often because it would make our meetings take forever quite often, but you have points of personal privilege, and I saw a city council that did not say anything in the face of extreme bigotry. What I saw was my council member, who I'm proud to be sitting up here, say something. He said something fast, and he got the attention of fellow elected officials in the East Bay. That's the reason this is up for a vote again tonight, is frankly because Councilmember Bowders went to bat for this and said this is wrong, this is outrageous, and it's not the East Bay that we live in. And so I think it was kind of a really beautiful gesture to invite Dublin here to fly their flag. I think this is very much in line with Emeryville values, in line with what our residents want to see in our community. And I'm going to be supporting it. I do like the idea of highlighting trans inclusion, especially in face of the ghastly statistics of violence against transgender individuals in our community. So I appreciate you adding that perspective and the nuance of what's happening at our local school board. But yeah, I just want to say that I really appreciate Councilman Bowders' quick action, and sometimes you have to act quickly on things, and I very much understand it in this situation. Member Bowders?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I couldn't say it much better than you just did. I'm going to use the comment time I have, since this was pulled from consent, to actually appreciate the public speaker. As the mayor already detailed, I received a number of phone calls after the city of Dublin had its debate on May 21st and voted not to hang the pride flag. And I contacted the mayor and I contacted a couple other people, including the council member in Dublin who proposed to do that, and negotiated his offer of a month to a week to a day, and still did not get a vote. And I'm not going to apologize for anything. I'm not. And the reason I'm not is because I will not put process before people when it comes to their civil dignity and rights. And I grew up in a very oppressive place, and I suspect you did too. And I had people shit on me most of my childhood and young adulthood. Shit on me for being gay. And I had a very private conversation with 4 of the 5 council members in Dublin in the 2 weeks since then. Some of them for as long as 2 hours. And we talked about what their words and their lack of words meant to people in their community, and how things that seem innocuous or well-intended can actually harm people. How the word consensus, well, we don't have consensus here. Mayor Halbert and I talked at length about that word. Consensus is for where to put the bike lane or how many stories on a building. It is not for how you represent people who have historically been marginalized. Because if we always put the rights and the dignity of minorities to a vote with the consensus mentality, they will continue to be oppressed. And so yes, I, without committing that the city would vote to do anything, I said this is what we were going to do because it was part of an approach to making change real. And I did that in consultation with a number of people. I did not do that to disrupt or disrespect any person up here or any person in this community or in the Dublin community. I did that because I committed when I ran for office that I would represent people the way I had wanted to be represented. And no one stood up for me. My town did not care. There were no services for me. There was no pride celebration. There was a woman in Dublin who spoke. She was 69 years old. And she cried like I am because her heart hurt, she said. And I understand that pain. And the pride flag is not all these things that people have said it is. Red in the pride flag stands for life, something everyone's entitled to. Orange stands for healing, which is something most of us who are LGBT have to go through. Yellow is for sunshine, because we should never be hidden in a closet. Green is for nature, which is the world we should share together. Blue is the harmony we should live with, and purple is the spirit we should live by. Together, that is love. And I don't really fully understand how hard it is for some people to see that, but I understand that people don't see it. And if my speaking out makes it easier for one young person to know that someone cares, that's all that matters. And I received dozens of emails and phone calls from people around the Bay Area I have never met, thanking me for it. And I was prepared, Councilmember Pats, to come here tonight to have you say what you said. And I was prepared to have a debate with all 4 of you if you did not like my proposal. And I was prepared to lose that debate publicly. But I had, as the mayor said, confidence that this is a different type of place. This is a community where you can belong, where you can walk to the podium and be appreciative of being a gay person in this town, where you can work here and nobody judges you for that. That is what I like about this town. That is why I serve on this council, and that is why I confidently told the public, if your community won't stand up for you, we see you, you belong here. And I respect and I appreciate the request to hang the transgender flag, and that was a conversation I had with several people in the last week, and I will accept that as a proposal that when we take a second flag down to send to Dublin, which I would like to offer to the city of Dublin as a symbol of friendship, because this isn't about Emeryville versus Dublin. This is about who are the people in our community who don't feel seen, who don't feel safe, who don't feel respected. How do we give them a space that makes them feel like they can belong? And I am confident that this evening, 5 council members in Dublin will vote to do something different than they voted the other day. And I am confident that the people in that community will heal, and that they will have a celebration, and that our act of courage on their behalf will be something meaningful and remembered fondly by that community in the future. And so I support the request to amend the resolution to hang the transgender flag after we hang and remove the pride flag for Dublin. And with that amendment, I'll move it.
Second.
Any other comments? Okay, let's call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. And let's remember that the first Pride was a riot.
Yes, it was.
Next item. Adoption of the budget of the City of Emeryville for the 2019, 2020, and 2021 fiscal years, appropriation of funds from, oh wait, am I on the wrong page? Sorry. I flipped the page. We're on public hearings. Just too excited. 11.1, resolution of the City Council of the City of Emeryville amending the City of Emeryville master fee schedule for fiscal year 2019, 2020.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. The master fee schedule is updated on an annual basis. Many of the fees for the 2019-20 fiscal year have been updated to reflect the general inflation of 3.5% as measured by the average change in the San Francisco Bay Area Consumer Price Index from February 2018 to February 2019. Most of the fees would become effective July 1st, 2019. The proposed fee schedule was reviewed by the Budget and Governance and Budget Advisory Committees in May. Following the presentation to the committees, the City Attorney advised that some planning fees would become effective August 5th, 2019. Those planning fees are noted by an asterisk. They are on pages 5, 6, and 7. A copy of the draft master fee schedule is provided to you. I would like to see if you have any questions regarding those planning fees before I proceed with the presentation.
Any clarifying questions regarding planning fees, which we have up here in extremely tiny font?
Move the item.
Oh, we're still doing staff report.
I know, move the item.
Okay, well,
We have to do
we have to do the public hearing. Okay.
There's a motion.
Do we need any more of the staff report? I think we're pretty familiar with the contents. Thank you so much. Okay. It is 7:44, and I'm going to open up this public hearing. Any public comment on this item? 7:44. I'm going to close that public hearing.
I'll make a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Bouders and a second by Member Martinez.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. All right, public hearing 11.2, resolution of the City Council of the City of Emeryville granting a waiver from the noise ordinance, PG&E, for weekend work between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on all Saturdays between June 8th and July 27th, and before 7 a.m. and after 6 p.m. on Friday, June 7th. Friday, June 7th and Friday, June 28th, to perform strength testing on a gas transmission pipeline that runs under Hollis Street from the Oakland boundary to the South Berkeley City boundary on the north.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Andrew Cloud, Public Works Director. And tonight, PG&E is requesting a waiver from the noise ordinance for, as you just read, for on Saturdays from June 8th through July 27th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And for 2 days, we would need extended hours. It's to perform the strength testing on the gas transmission pipeline that runs under Hollis Street. I will note that all of our standard conditions of approval are attached to the resolution, but for the discussion of the project and the needs for it, I'm going to turn that over to PG&E representatives who are here today, and I believe they have a request for a change to one of the days as far as the scheduling goes as well, but I'll have them explain that for you.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Madam Mayor and Council, Tom Garino with PG&E. And let me make sure that this responds.
Is that in the
All right, Andrew, where do I click?
slideshow mode?
Or just click?
Andrew, is it in slide? Yeah. It's on.
I think that was.
I can do it. Yeah, you'll be quicker. Put on slideshow.
And then use the arrows, Tom, not the.
The arrows, yeah,
From beginning.
Green.
You just use the arrows here.
right here, okay. Great, and I won't take a lot of time. I'll kind of buzz right through this, and I've got my colleagues here that can answer a lot of detailed questions, but we appreciate the opportunity to bring you up to date on, I think I made a similar presentation about 10 years ago to the Emeryville City Council, so this is really not new. It's for the integrity of the gas pipeline, and you have a significant gas transmission line running through Emeryville. If I know Mr. Donahue is aware of that, and I presume everybody else is too, so we will presume. Here's the streets that are impacted. I think that was in your, you have that before you, and we can, with your blessings here, I'll go through the program and then entertain any questions that you might have and this will only take a couple of minutes. But it is natural gas pipeline testing. This is what we call the transmission line. So it's not the small distribution lines that go to your homes or businesses. This is a major feeder line that we're talking about. The recommendations that were made, as you can see, by staff, and we really appreciate the staff working with my colleagues to try to be able to focus and streamline and come up with something that hopefully will work for everybody. The staff's recommendation, as you can see, we're trying to curtail by about 20 days the amount of work and disruption that's going to be occurring in the community. A little bit of background. Again, this is part of our integrity management program. It is a mandated program, both from a federal standpoint and a state standpoint. The federal standpoint, as you can see, it's there's a number of federal regulations that are cited there, and then also the Public Utilities Commission jurisdiction over our work. Again, some background analysis. There were options to assess the pipeline, and what we're really looking at and what we're really concerned about is corrosion, leaks, any kind of abnormalities as far as the integrity of the pipeline is concerned. Ultimately, what we found, this is strength testing, and we're doing this. This is ongoing right now over in West Oakland, and we're kind of working our way here over to Berkeley and then up to Richmond ultimately. So it's, you can see we use water, high degree and capacity of water just to make sure there aren't any leaks. And so far, I'd say 99% of the time we don't find any, but every now and then we do, and that's the purpose of this particular program, to restore that, the integrity. PG&E is proposing day work to execute the project. There's 7 major components. There's excavation that we'll be doing, what we call cut and cap, welding, strength test, and then tying in along with the coating and the backfill, and ultimately restoration of the pipeline. There may, if there are disruptions, and I understand there are, and I'll let my colleagues speak to that. Like Pixar, we're going to go to CNG, compressed natural gas, and others, but nobody will be without their needed gas supply during the course of this particular project. Again, as we mentioned, the extended hours will allow us to do this in 70 days instead of 90 or 100 days. So that's the objective here. The work type, equipment to be used, again, standard roadway excavation and pipeline modification. This gives you a little example of what the decibel level is of some of the equipment that we're going to be using. As you can see, the most is 81 decibels, and then it dips down from there. The customer outreach team, we've already been engaging our customers, your constituents, We had a town hall meeting here in Emeryville on April 23rd. Again, it's a real hands-on, high-touch type of an outreach. Virtually knocking on doors, one-on-one, including, in addition to the town hall meeting that we had, social media that we're using, mailers, anything we can think of just to make sure that the community is fully informed. Now these have changed a little bit, and I'll let my colleagues come back to this particular slide just to bring you up to date. But the project is underway from an engineering and a planning standpoint, and then a little bit later this month, the actual work will begin. This is, as your Public Works Director alluded to, the Saturday work hour request. And and again, there's a slight tweak to this that will come back in detail. The team that I have with me, I'm proud to have with me this evening, project manager, and I'll ask them to stand up as I read out their names. But the ones that are here are Jeff Wilson, who's the project manager, construction manager Sean Dearborn. And we'll give you their cell phone so you can track them down if things go sideways. The government relations rep who's been working closely with your Public Works Director, that's Claudia Luna. And her name isn't on here, but Cindy Mama is our other project manager that's overseeing. And this is a multi-million-dollar project, safety project that we're implementing throughout our community here. And there's Cindy, I don't know if you stood up when I wasn't looking, or go ahead. Thank you. And then for the interested public, we brought a fact sheet that goes into a little more detail about just exactly the philosophy and the details of this particular program. And we have a number of handouts if people would like those in the back. Claudia, I think, did you put those out? Where are they? Or do you have them with you? So we'll leave those behind if people have questions. So let me come back here and ask, who's going to touch on this? Is this Jeff or Sean that's going to drill down a little bit on these specific dates of work and the tweaks? Who's going to address that? Sure. Sean? Okay.
Good evening, council members and mayor. So these dates are basically the duration of the project. I think what we need is what we have. The work is anticipated to make our tie-in date prior to July 4th. In order to do this, the Saturdays are required to make that schedule. The dates after our final tie-in are much more flexible. But it's about getting restoration complete so that we are off the streets and out of the city of Emeryville. So these dates are all the remaining Saturdays and are requested in the event that we need them. The dates leading up to this through the 6th of July are the ones that are most critical in this set. I think the question was the previous date here. This timeline and milestones are current. We updated this today. I think the previous sheet submitted was the corrected, where the dates that need to be corrected. So this Thursday, the 6th, so it's a date that we purge all the gas out of the line. And once we start that operation, it's necessary to continue until all the gas is purged and the entire line is clear. That allows us to fill it with water. That operation is very difficult to manage in a less than 12-hour period. Quite often can be 16 hours and beyond. Our impact for that work is primarily at 53rd, Hollis, and Powell and Hollis, and again at 63rd. Those are the primary sites for our clearance. So at those three sites, it's necessary to have personnel monitor gas concentrations in the pipeline until we get all of the gas out of the line. So it's a date that, or a time frame that's really unpredictable and necessary. That operation will be repeated at tie-in on July 2nd, July 3rd. So it's the same type of operation where we purge the line back with gas. So it's after we've completed all the testing. And at that point, again, until we get the line fully purged, 100% gas, there's a greater risk in having partial mixtures. So we must monitor the line until we have 100% gas. So a return on those dates are a critical 12-hour up to 16-hour days or 16-hour time frames that will need work at those 3 locations. Now you can see that we have a number of other locations that we are going to be working at. Those sites are simply removing features out of the line that are no longer required to be there. So nothing that is critical for our cut and cap or 12-hour day. So we won't be working at those sites on those extended hours, but we do need the additional hours to get those features removed so that we can maintain that schedule to be complete by July 3rd.
So that that concludes our presentation. But again, I think I have the key people here. If the mayor or council members have any questions that we can address. And again, I can't thank the staff enough for really allowing us to make a 10-minute presentation after hours and hours and hours of preparation for this. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks. Any clarifying questions? Yes, Member Batters.
I have just a few questions. The proposal that's on the agenda here says to allow on June 7th and on June 28th, it says before 7 a.m. and after 6 p.m., but you don't have a start and end time. Is it just you want the whole day, all 24 hours in the day for those days?
So typically our operations on a cut and cap day, we'd start at, our crews are on site at 6 a.m. so that we can be pulling plates off to access the pipeline by 7.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so that we are gone before 11 p.m. type of thing. So it would be an early start. 7 a.m. would be on the street pulling plates and starting that cut and cap clearance. Typically we are, it's a 12 to 16-hour day. That's where it's unpredictable.
So you're just asking for authority for the whole day then is essentially what I'm seeing.
Exactly.
You don't know when exactly it'll be done. So, okay, that's the first question. The second question is, you had all those Saturdays that were listed there. The first one is this Saturday, and we just voted to actually have an event in front of Town Hall that day. So my question is, on June 8th specifically, will you be working the entire Hollis Street corridor? Are you going to be on the north side of the city? Do you have an idea of where you'll be on that day?
We are flexible in the number of locations, so we're not going to have all 9 locations opened up at one time.
Okay.
So if the city has a particular area or an event, we're flexible in that we can move crews to another site. So if we need to be focused on the north end, we have that ability.
You have enough work to do there that you could do that for one weekend. Okay.
Correct.
And then the last question I have is maybe for staff, which is when they're finished with this, we require that they bring the street back up to our paving grade standards. Is that correct? That's
correct.
Okay. That's all my questions.
I had a question about the public outreach. You mentioned you're going to do social media, possibly even door knocking. This is going to be before every single Saturday that you do the work?
Well, a lot of it has already been, we'll work with you on that, just to make sure everybody is communicated. But yeah, basically every Saturday, a lot of the outreach has already taken place, so we'll reinforce that.
Okay.
And if I could add to Mr. Bauer's second point about the ceremony this Saturday, which I know is one that's gotten a lot of attention. It's extremely important. PG&E embraces it, but we will work very, very closely to make sure that this isn't going to interrupt any of your plans as far as that's concerned. So
I appreciate
wanted
that,
you to be
Tom.
reassured.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Yes, Member Martinez.
Is there a place where residents and businesses can go to just get the most up-to-date schedule? Because I understand you're going to be working at various points along Hollis and along the pipeline, so folks know when you're going to be right in front of their business.
You have that, or
Yeah.
Claudia? Can you come up too, Claudia? Yeah, we'll be, and I'm not sure, I'm maybe speaking out of turn, but we'll work with the city, whether it's on your website, social media, any multifaceted outreach. But maybe Claudia, Sean, I don't know, Sean, did you want to touch on that, or Claudia?
I can quickly touch on that.
Okay, go ahead.
So we have a robust customer outreach team. Do you guys hear me? We have a robust customer outreach team with a specific representative where your constituents or customers can call, and they'll get a real person, a direct email also to get up to date statuses of the project.
Is there going to be like a website? Because I think what you might have in mind is what we did for our paving project.
That's
which was
exactly what I had in mind.
phenomenal. Andrew, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. But we had it like every weekend. You could see what was going to be closed, what was going to be ground out and repaved. And it was just an online website where we could refer people to that link. And it was super helpful. Like the community really liked that, where you could just track where it's going to be.
We can work with the Public Works Department to publicize where we're at per week.
Madam Mayor, if PG&E develops a website like that where you can push people to, we'd be happy to link to that put that up on our news flash, which goes out. So that might be helpful as well.
We'll take that back to our team.
Okay, and you can get the example one from Public Works, which was very effective for our last round.
Yes.
Yeah, we can collaborate with Public Works to make sure, the optimal means for communication and outreach to make, working with the, whether it's the city's website, our website, a special website, whatever it takes to make sure that customers and your constituents are fully embraced. So.
Thank you. Member Donahue.
Would you explain the math of this? You say that it would take 90 days without the Saturday work, and but you're only suggesting 7 days, and then it would be 70 days.
I got it.
Do you want to touch that?
Jeff, can I answer for you? So the math on that, the math on that was a request for 7 to 5. So our hours are 9 to 4, and typically in adjacent cities we have a 7 to 5:30 work schedule, so 10-hour days. So in that 20 days was request for additional hours during the work week beyond 9 to 4. I know our presentation does not have the 9 to 4. If we can, where we are with our schedule right now, if we can get the Saturdays, we feel that with our 9 to 4, we'll still manage to get complete by July 3rd. It's a push, but those hours are the restrictive hours from 7 to 9 and from 4 to 5:30 are the additional balance there, the 20 days.
Okay.
Okay, any other clarifying questions?
No.
Awesome, thank you so much. I'm going to open up the public hearing. All right, it's 8:04. Public hearing is open. Any public comment?
Okay, PG&E, not my favorite company, sorry to say. They're arguably the worst public utility in the United States. I mean, they were ruled guilty in people dying in the San Bruno fire disaster, where the company was determined to be negligent, and so people died as a result of PG&E malfeasance or negligence. And then, of course, the infamous Prop 16 from several years ago, where they put a proposition to California voters and spent $50 million of the ratepayers' money to fight public municipal powers. In other words, to try to stop municipalities from forming their own power companies. And they spent, $50 million of ratepayers' money to try to stop democracy, basically. They asked for a supermajority be needed in the event of a municipality deciding they want their own power company. Luckily, they lost that. But that shows you a lot about the kind of company PG&E is. And then, of course, there's the recent Camp Fire and all the deaths there that they are. It's almost certainly that they are to blame, and they're, cutting corners. Okay, so Councilmember Donahue asked a good question, and the answer didn't make any sense to me about the time schedule. But one thing they did make clear was they said that they're asking for this noise ordinance waiver and to disturb our weekends because they'll get the project done faster. However, if you read the noise ordinance, and I've told you this, the five of you, this many times, if you read the noise ordinance, you will see nothing in there about making provisions to help businesses increase their profits by getting jobs done faster. There's nothing in the noise ordinance about that. Instead, what it speaks to is our desiring of peace and quiet for the residents on weekends and in the evenings. That's why we have the noise ordinance. We didn't write this thing to help corporations make more money. And because let's not fool ourselves. That's why they want to do this faster, and that's why they want to upset our weekends and our evenings here in Emeryville. So I say no. You should not grant them this, and you should just have them work the normal business hours like I have to do. And again, read the noise ordinance. I dare you guys to show me where it says that what we're trying to do here is help corporations increase their profits by getting jobs done faster. It says nothing about that. And you have made this ruling in the past for other companies, so there is a precedence. But that's a bad precedence, and you should start overturning that now and start representing the residents' interests instead of the corporation's interests. So PG&E is a bad company, and you should say no to this.
Any other public comment?
Not a public comment, but staff had a question about.
Can we wait for public comment to be over before we get
sorry.
to? Yeah, thank you. Any additional public comment? Okay, comment up.
Thank you.
Use this.
Staff had a question, and maybe our team could come up again about the disruption. Will any customers be out of gas? I did touch on Pixar briefly in our remedy there, but schools, communities, businesses, will there be a loss of gas service to any customers? I believe that's what staff's question had been. So,
so no, we have some high demanding customers that come off of our transmission line in Emeryville. So all of those services will be maintained. We're actually we set up a temporary service for them hauling trucks on a daily basis. So there will be trucks that are supplying Novartis and Bayer their gas for the duration of the hydro test project.
Thank you.
No, I was just going to reiterate what Sean said. We're not going to have anybody down, and we're doing this for the safety of the. We're not going to have anybody get down with gas, and we're doing this for the safety and integrity of the line. We're not here to make profits. So.
Thank you.
And just in summary, in my role, I'm basically in charge of public safety for Alameda County and Contra Costa County. You know, I live here, been here 25 years, and we're doing this for the safety of our community here. We're testing the pipeline. This is very proactive. It's preventative. And I just wanted to assure those that are watching right now that that's the mission here. That's the goal here. And I was in Pleasant Hill last night. Ironically, I was supposed to be in Dublin tonight making another presentation, but they have another item on their agenda. So
I think you probably lucked out.
so that's been continued. But I just want your constituents and those watching, that's why we're doing this. It's on my watch. I'm responsible. I own it. And I want to make sure that this is as safe as possible. I live here. Our neighbors live here. You all live here. Your constituents. And that's the core objective behind this particular program. So thank you for indulging me in that.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? All right, seeing none, I close this public hearing at 8:10. All right, any discussion? Oh, you're still going. Let's go.
Yes, may I add one thing? I just, I don't know that we got the clarity that the resolution specifically talks about 2 days where there is a need for the long work days and that the weekends were to help with the schedule. But are those days, we have specifically identified 2 days here. Are you sure of which days you need that, or do you need some flexibility in a room, because, you know, a date range, because that's going to have to be clarified here?
2 days.
Thank you. Can you use the
Please
mic?
use the mic.
Thank you, Andrew.
So we would need 2 days. as proposed, the second and third is our first option. If we are not able to make that day, would be the
Second and third of what?
July.
Oh, it says June 7th and June 28th.
Yeah.
Maybe this is what we're trying to sort out.
We have a confusion
Your
on dates.
request had been June 7th and June 28th for when you did your cut.
Okay.
And then when you did your tie-in, the 2 days that you knew that you were going to need longer than the regular work hours to be in the right of way.
Gotcha. So the days that I need, or we need, are the cut and cap and the tie-in days. So June 6th, which is this Thursday, work late that evening, and then
Not early in the morning, just into the evening.
into the evening. I don't see any reason why it would go longer than that. We have had problems previous, but that's all we'd need is extra hours into that evening.
This thing doesn't even match this at all.
Yeah, sorry, we're just gonna have to take this slow because what you're requesting is not at all what matches the draft resolution we have in front of us, date-wise.
So is it changing the June 7th date to June 6th? So right now it says before 7 and after 6 on Friday, June 7th.
You don't need all of these days for long. That's what's somewhat confusing. You still only need 2 days. Is that correct?
Can we put the resolution on the overhead?
Oh, that's a great idea. Thanks, Diane.
Yeah, because this is what we're actually passing, and this is what has been distributed to the public.
Thank you for doing that.
And if the public's been notified of the days that are not correct, I think that's a concern for us.
That's my issue always.
I know, we did this last time.
No, the reso. Can you pull up the reso, please?
Well, it has the, okay.
I think it would be helpful to have the reso, just if we need to amend that language, then we know what they're adopting.
All right.
It's page 2 at the top.
Okay, there we go. Functional.
So the question that I asked and I wanted the clarification on is specifically the PGD request were those Saturdays starting on June 8th through July 27th. As you explained, you might not need all of those.
Correct.
You might not use those. You'll specifically make sure on June 8th that you're not working at this end of town. And then you had 2 days because of the nature of the testing that you're in the street. When you do the cut and the tie and when you do your actual test, you can't just pull out from the work within that work hours. Those are the most critical, as I understood it.
That's
the ones
correct.
where you had to have the extended because you had to be in the right of way. You couldn't walk away from it. The Saturdays were more flexible because that was trying to meet a time schedule, but also to be off the street. That was something the council could consider. And so the question is, are those dates, you're saying Friday, June 7th is not, it's now the 6th, and what is the other date that you're actually going to do the final work?
Okay.
Or you need to have a day or two range.
Yeah. So for the cut and cap would be 1 day beyond the hours of 4 p.m. And ideally that would be Thursday, June 6th. If that date does not work, I'm comfortable delaying that and as it's submitted.
Can it be
for
June
Friday.
7th?
Yeah, because that's
Friday
what you
the 7th.
advertise to the
Absolutely.
community.
Because, I mean, we've told the community and all the postings that it would be this day, and so to change the day, that's the issue
Absolutely.
we're looking at.
We can move that back to Friday, so we will be, the hours that we'd be looking for is beyond 4 p.m. and likely off the street by 11 to midnight. So beyond 7 a.m. Friday night, beyond 4 p.m. Friday, and that may end up going into Saturday evening type of thing, but hopefully out and off the street by 11 p.m. Friday night.
When you say Saturday evening, you mean the
Sorry,
early morning hours?
Saturday morning. Yes, correct.
And then it's June 28th work as the other date.
The June 28th date is when we're testing the pipeline, and that will not impact City of Emeryville limits for extra hours. We're going to be working extra hours on the project, but there's no locations within Emeryville. So the date that I need for extended hours is for tie-in, which is July 2nd.
So we can strike the 28th from this resolution?
Yes.
Just to let you know my concerns, I I'm loath to change dates on this, but I'm happy to strike dates that you don't need. Because this is a public hearing. This is a resolution that was published for people to take a look at and understand, what the city government is doing. So,
Yep.
I agree with you.
So
Yeah, so you're saying you do need July 2nd, which is not at all in this resolution.
Yeah, I think our original schedule was the June 28th, so when this was submitted, it was for a different schedule that we're not able to attain at this point.
There's the ability to amend the resolution once.
Yeah, I'd like to ask staff a question, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
If we were to, could we take two actions on this? Could we approve a resolution that gives them the June 7th date that they've already requested and continue until our next meeting the rest of this request? So just leave it blank and we could literally just consider an amendment to allow July 2nd after they've noticed the public, so that the public has heard that July 2nd might be a date. Can we do that? Basically allow them to continue the existing application without making them refile? Or can we do that?
Madam Mayor, let me try to answer this. I think it's a two-part question. I think you need to take the action that's in front of you tonight as amended, however you choose to do that, which the simplest thing would be to strike the June 28th date since they're not asking for it anymore. But you need to adopt that resolution so that they can do this. And then what you're asking us to do, if I understand it correctly, is to have another public hearing on June 18th for the July 2nd date. And that would be just a separate resolution that authorizes the work on July 2nd.
Yes.
I think that's the simplest way to do it.
I think so. But I'll warn you, that's going to have to be your date if we're doing that. If we're doing another public hearing and the public noticing, you got to make sure you get the date right the next time.
I'm comfortable by June 18th that we have that date.
So, and just to be clear,
by June 8th.
By June 8th, yes. Okay.
And just to be clear, your presentation had July 2nd and 3rd. Do you need both of those days?
It's July 2nd into the 3rd, so we'd be overnight. July 2nd,
okay.
Late hours, early hours, July 3rd is how it...
So just to clarify, we publish for June 18th tomorrow, so you actually need to confirm that July 2nd date tomorrow.
Possible.
You can do that? I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go for it. Yes.
In the report, it said we might be better for the public if we had you working on Saturdays, because there would be less overall work. But Saturdays are shopping days in our city, and sometimes our traffic is worse on the weekend than during the week. So, this is a factor. I mean, I can perceive that you have to have these long days in order to do the testing. But the Saturday work might, on Hollis Street, it's sort of like, let's talk about the traffic on Hollis Street. It could end up costing us our sales tax revenue rather than having it during the week.
Can I ask, will your work be obstructing traffic?
Yeah, currently so we have the same work areas currently set up, and we impact southbound traffic on Hollis at our location. So we're flagging traffic, so keeping traffic open at 8 of the 9 sites in between in between Powell and 61st. We have a detour for southbound traffic. Northbound is left open.
What is that detour?
I don't know the street off the top of my head.
Is this I think I've seen these construction
Staff
sites.
should know. What's the planned detour?
Staff should know.
Staff should use the mic.
I don't recall exactly. It's been approved. The Healy
Yeah.
is approved. I can't remember the exact.
This is the work that's underway right now. that
Yes.
The flaggers are out there.
Yeah, I've seen the
directing
lighters
traffic
for this,
right now.
so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Member Donahue, were you saying you did not want to approve the Saturday work? Is that what I was hearing?
Well, I'm thinking about the Saturday work. I mean, maybe, is this a problem for you if you don't work Saturdays? The project is longer, but, for our city, it might be better to not have the Saturday work. Might be better from people being able to go places on the, weekends are denser than weekdays on some of the, and maybe our residents would just, actually have less suffering as well if it were all the work were done during the week. That's a question that I want to talk about.
I'm trying to remember what our traffic volumes on Hollis are vis-a-vis weekdays versus weekends. Andrew, am I correct in thinking that we actually have lower traffic volumes on Hollis for almost all of the weekend?
Usually, it's not like it is out on
Can you
Shell
use the
Mountain.
microphone? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, that's usually the case, not like out on Shell Mountain.
Yeah.
So I thank you for that clarification. For me, the challenge is, because I've driven through these streets, they're going to be torn up.
Yeah.
And so even if they put the metal plates on, traffic flows, you guys tore up my street recently. You messed up Andrew's beautiful work of the new street top. I was quite upset. But to me, the Saturday work, the 70 days, this isn't somebody building a building. This is somebody daring up our roads and getting it done quicker. Just makes the most sense to me. So that's my thought to you. It's going to mess up the traffic flow, weekdays, weekends, Sundays, and apparently a couple of late nights.
I agree. I've been popping on the sidewalk for that section of Hollis on my bike, honestly, because I hate going over the metal plates. I don't like getting little pieces of gravel thrown at me. And I think probably a lot of people feel the same way about it. Any other comments? Okay, we got a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution, but on page 2, on paragraph 1, to amend the resolution to strike and Friday, June 28th, 2019. Staff, for your purposes, do we need language that says June 7th and into the morning of June 8th, or is that sufficient that it says June 7th? If they were to go to 1 a.m., is that going to be a problem for you guys legally?
It says after 6 p.m. So I think
I know, but
that's
if it
fine.
becomes June 8th is what I'm asking, because it says June 7th.
And the work is likely to extend past midnight?
Not likely, but there's a possibility.
So sure, into June 8th.
Yes?
I'm sorry, this is gas lines. At a certain point, if you don't have that capped, it becomes emergency work. So our noise ordinance. Am I wrong in that?
If they had an emergency repair out in the street, that would be true.
Yeah, and an uncapped gas line strikes me as not good.
But for clarification, to make it clear right now, I think that what the city manager said we could do is to say it beyond the 7th and possibly extending into the 8th or something like that.
I will write it as such. Work shall be allowed on all Saturdays between June 8th, 2019 and July 27th, 2019. And after 6 p.m. on Friday, June 7th, and until 7 a.m. on Saturday, June 8th. And then I will strike and Friday, June 28th, 2019. The rest, the second sentence will remain. And then that will be the motion. The request I would make, well, that's the motion. I'll make the request after we've voted.
Second. Right, we've got a motion from Member Bowders and a second from Member Martinez.
Councilmember Bowders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez? Aye. Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina?
Aye. And request.
My request is two things. One on, well, in light of what the other council members have said about the plates, you have one sign at 53rd and Hollis that says bump. It's right when you hit the bump. It is not very well lit and it's a very big bump. And there's a second one on the backside of it. I would like to see a bump sign everywhere because I walked my dog at night and I watched a car literally fly off of it. Okay, and they should not be speeding, but at the same time, I just think we should better highlight that those are pretty elevated plates you have on the intersections. So if you could just do that, and I think on June 8th, my request would be that no work up until 3 p.m. south of Powell Street. If you could just keep it on the north side of the city, people coming off the freeway here don't want to be navigating Hollis Street to come to our event. That would be great if you could do that.
You know, just, excuse me, just so I know, what time is the event? On
The setup is at 11 a.m. and it ends, it'll be done at 2.
11 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so we just need to be really careful to make sure that we're working in concert with the city on that. So,
Yeah,
okay.
just for that one Saturday, which is this one. And then to obviously refile with the city whatever you need for your July date with a very specific date in mind, please.
And it sounds like that is due tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll work with city manager and public works director, and I think Claudia is going to be point on that. So we've got the right people here.
Thank you. Glad we worked that out. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Action items 12.1, adoption of this budget of the City of Emeryville 2019, 2020, and 2021 fiscal years. Appropriation of funds from the FY 2018-2019 General Fund assigned fund balance and the adoption of the appropriations limit for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. Susan.
You gotta show me which buttons are on that thing. Nope. Just keep pushing buttons.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. For your consideration tonight is the budget for fiscal years 2019-20 and 2020-21. The budget balancing strategies were presented to the City Council on May 21st. The updated residual tax increment policy is included in tonight's agenda packet. It reflects a 2.5% allocation to the public art fund and an additional 25% allocation to the general fund. The general fund budget reflects 1% salary and benefit savings. The budget proposed to withdraw funds from the pension reserve starting in fiscal year 2022 to help balance the budget in future years. $2,050,000 transfer to the pension reserve is recommended in fiscal year 2019. The budget reflects overhead cost recovery from enterprise and special funds. The budget includes a financial policy for the parking management program to make sure parking revenues can only be used to support program-related expenditures. Upon adoption, these 5 strategies will also be adopted as part of the budget. This slide summarizes the citywide operating expenditures. The general fund budget is projected at $45 million for fiscal year 2020 and $46 million for fiscal year 2021. Operating expenditures for other funds are projected at $37 million for each fiscal year. Citywide operating expenditures are expected to exceed $80 million in each fiscal year. The city is annually required to adopt an appropriations limit identifying the limit for appropriation of revenue for tax proceeds. The adjustment factors that are used to calculate the increase include the county population growth of 0.75% and the California per capita growth of 3.85%. The fiscal year 2020 appropriations limit is calculated at $115 million. The appropriations from proceeds of tax are calculated at $36 million, which is about 31% of the city's allowed limit. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt the budget for the 2019-20 and 2020-21 fiscal years and appropriate funds from the fiscal year 2018-19 general fund unassigned fund balance. Staff also recommends that the City Council adopt the appropriations limit for the 2019-20 fiscal year at $115 million. This concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Any clarifying questions? Okay, thank you. Any public comment on this item? I feel like the pressure is really on. Okay. Last chance. All right, see no public comment. Let's move into discussion. Love to hear from our budget subcommittee.
I just want to thank staff for all of the work that's been done this year, and I want to thank Member Bowders for his work and leadership as chair of the Budget and Governance Committee. And I just want to iterate for the members of the public who may be watching at home that this is not a rubber stamp of a budget, that this is the culmination of many months of hard work. And I just want to thank staff again for a very clear, transparent process that was easy to follow for those of us who are not financial professionals. So I just want to extend that appreciation.
Thank you.
I would just add on to Councilmember Martinez that I would like to thank staff for making this process so streamlined and seamless this year. I want to thank the city manager in particular for all her work with the finance director. I want to thank Mr. Reuter and the Budget Advisory Committee, and most definitely want to thank Councilmember Martinez for being such a solid contributor to the conversation we have around budget, and the city is in a really good position to plan for its future. There's challenges ahead, but we are ahead of those challenges in the thought process, and I think that's where we need to be right now, and I'm very grateful for the budget we have before us.
Any other comments?
No comment.
Thank you both for your hard work, and to our Budget and Governance Committee and our city staff. I think this is an extremely transparent process, and I appreciate everyone's work. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the resolution in 12.1.1.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We got a motion by Member Martinez, a second by Member Batters. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Move 12.1.2.
Second.
We had a motion and a second by Member Martinez and a second by Vice Mayor Pats.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. Okay. 12.2, adoption of the capital improvement plan for the city of Emeryville for 2019-20 through 2023-24 fiscal years, and authorization of appropriations for the 2019-20 and 2020-21 funding cycles for the city of Emeryville 5-year capital improvement program.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. For your consideration is the capital improvement program for fiscal years 2019-20 through 2023-24. The CIP proposed capital investment of $91 million over a 5-year period. There are 85 projects, including 13 new projects. The $7 million for fiscal year 2020 and $17 million for fiscal year 2021 represent proposed appropriations, and the amounts for the remaining 3 years are for planning purpose. The draft CIP presented to the City Council on May 7th reflect the proposed appropriations for the South Bayfront Bridge, $7.4 million for fiscal year 2020 and $1.5 million for fiscal year 2021. As part of the contract award, the City Council appropriated $9.1 million to this project on May 21st to the current fiscal year. Therefore, these two amounts are removed from the CIP to show the appropriation for the current fiscal year. Based on the City Council's recommendation, a new project was added to the CIP to identify potential small parks. There was an update to the narrative for the Corporation Yard project to reflect the current project description. After the agenda packet was published, a minor change was made to the narrative for the courtyard. 2 words, "to be," are added before approved by the California Department of Toxic Substance Control. An updated sheet is provided to you tonight. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt the capital improvement program for the 2019-20 through 2023-24 fiscal years. Staff also recommends that the City Council authorize the appropriations for the 2019-20 and the 2020-21 funding cycles. This concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Any clarifying questions? I'll do it during discussion. Okay. Any public comment on this item? Nope. Does anyone have any discussion? I've got an item, but you can go ahead on the budget. All right. Currently, the pop-up parks is coded in here as Village Greens, which was an offhand joke that I made. And I knew this would. I knew one day this was going to happen to me. That I was going to say something that was going to encode it into
We
a
have to
public
serve
document.
salad on the Village Greens.
What page is Village Greens on?
It's in here. And, you know, failing to come up with a better name for it is clearly my fault. Pop-up parks, I kind of liked, but then our city manager said it's just impermanence. What I'm kind of going for is a permanent retaking of city streets.
I think Village Greens is very broad.
I actually want to make the motion for Village Greens to lock it in. I just kind of think we should go Village Greens.
Okay, but I'd like to
It could
point
mean
out
so many
there's
things.
no money assigned to Village
That's the
Greens.
second part of what I wanted to bring up. And thank you, Scott. What a great lead-in. We didn't even caucus on this. So yeah, for Village Greens, what I'd like to do is ask if the council would be okay with adopting a policy where if monies become available from other projects, say somebody shakes some money loose from ACTC for these other funds, and we have funds that become available within our CIP, they go to this project, which has the goals of achieving both our park plans and our mobility, which is, you know, number 2 on our list of priorities is increasing safety and connectivity. We also have a goal of increasing park space. So because I think this really hits a lot of the connection points of what we want to do as a council, I'd like to prioritize, if we do have funding in the CIP come up, that we fund this item.
I'd like to say I support what you're asking for. Can we refer that to the budget committee, because we draft the policies on the budget spending, so we could take that up at budget committee because it won't go into this document as a policy. This is just the CIP. Is that right, staff?
Unless you adopted a funding strategy as part of the appropriations resolution, but you could also do that at a later date. That's easy enough.
Yeah. So I'm supportive. I just think.
I'd like to point out that we've never seen where these places are. It would, you know, we can have the goal, but if we really don't have the space.
I do have a map that I made.
So you, in fact, know that these places exist, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I will not deny that Councilmember Bowders and I have a shared Google map that after 11 p.m. we started going a little bit crazy on. And we have a lot of acreage of street space we want to turn into parks. This has not been vetted by anyone. This is just...
Well,
This is the musings of two transit wonks.
You know,
City Council after hours.
If what
I
are
got
we
ideas.
proposing? I mean, I love the idea, but I just
We had
don't
a
want to
propo-
lock down. You know, like we're going to potentially be getting money from a number of sources, but you know, I want to feel confident that this is the best use of those funds, and we're being a little hasty when we don't even know what's available.
Well, first of all, we have a site located for the Doyle Hollis Park extension.
Yes.
And then we did, I believe, comment that we'd like to expend that until 61st Street. So we've got a couple of blocks already where we're starting with. And we also loosely put into our policies when we were discussing the railroad crossings. If one of those is closed, that's another site. So we have a couple of sites identified for this.
So I actually want to propose, I think you guys have a solution right here, which is we could concurrently refer the policy on the financing to budget, and Public Works Committee could then review the map to discuss what items should be brought to this council to consider, so that Councilmember Donahue can get his answer on what's that list, and
Yeah.
we could propose the policy at the same time.
Okay, I am very open to that, and I do have a late-breaking G-chat from Ryan Luther, who's now a resident, that says Emery Acres or Greenvilles. But he does support Village Greens as well, so those are two other options he'd like me to throw out there.
Be careful, because you are now going to have residents go, how do I directly contact the mayor during council meeting?
Oh, it's actually on my business card. If you just text to that number, it goes to my Google Voice app, so you can immediately text me in
You are
real
going to
time.
regret this meeting. I'm going to just.
They do it already. Okay,
Mayor, if I could clarify then, so there's 2 referrals, if I understood it. One would be to the Budget Committee, a discussion of policy for allocating available funding for unfunded projects.
Yeah.
And then the second would be to Public Works and Transportation to discuss possible locations for the Village Greens projects.
I sense that that's what it's going to be called now. It seems to be.
You try to change it, I will make a substitute motion.
Okay. Alrighty then. Do we have a motion?
I think you should make a motion.
Okay, I will move. Can I move them both at once, or do we need to do separate motions?
Can we do, 2 resolutions, please?
2 motions.
Okay, I move that the Budget Committee sorry.
You're going to do the resolution, the actual CIP first?
Oh, the actual CIP first, and then those recommendations afterwards?
We've got
There's
two
items.
resolutions.
This one on the next page, and then we can
Why
do the
did we put them on
recommendation.
the next page? That just tricks me.
Yep.
All right. We've got, I'll move item 12.2.1.
Second?
Call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. All right. Do we have a motion for item 12.2.2?
So moved?
Second.
Got a motion by Member Martinez. We've got a second by Member Bouders. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. Okay. And then I would also like to move that the budget committee look at how to create a policy around any unspent CIP funds, and ask them that they might consider this project, the Village Greens project, as a top recipient for those funds.
Second. Is that, or are you going to make a second part of the motion?
I thought I had to do two separate ones.
No.
That was the two things we just did.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sorry.
It's unclear on that. And that if so, then the Public Works and Transportation Committee comes up with a list of specific sites for those funds to be spent at.
Second.
You okay?
All right. Thank you. Motion second. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue?
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pats?
Aye.
And Mayor Medina.
Aye. Okay. And 13.1. Yes. Planning Director's report on Planning Commission actions at May 23rd, 2019 meeting. What a lot of actions.
Mayor Medina, members of the City Council, this is my regular report to you on recent actions of the Planning Commission. Their last meeting was May 23rd, about a week and a half ago. There were 4 items on that agenda. All 7 commissioners were present at that meeting. The first item was a high-rise sign at 1900 Powell Street for WeWork. That was approved unanimously. That decision is appealable to the City Council. The deadline for appeals is this coming Friday, June 7th. We have not received any appeals. If the council wishes to appeal this item to yourselves, this would be the time for you to do that. The commission also considered a proposed amendment to the planning regulations related to tower separation. They unanimously voted to recommend approval of those amendments to the City Council, and we have that scheduled for a public hearing at your July 9th meeting. The commission held a study session on the Ani Christie mixed-use project, which went on for quite a while. There were many comments on that project from the public and from the commissioners. And finally, the commission held a study session on the 40th Street, 40th and San Pablo bus hub design, which you can see out in the link. The reaction to that was all generally pretty positive, and we have that scheduled to come to the council for approval of this design concept at your July 9th meeting. That concludes my presentation, or my report. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Yep.
Would you describe something, a few of the salient points about tower separation that they are proposing?
This is an outgrowth of the study sessions that the Planning Commission and the City Council had a few months ago about unit mix and tower separation. You may recall we currently have a requirement for a horizontal distance between towers that is the greater of the height of the two of the buildings.
Yes.
And one of the options that was presented to both the commission and the council was to eliminate the distance requirement and just replace it with a general finding. Both the commission and the council unanimously supported that option. So we have turned that into a code amendment, which the Planning Commission has endorsed. And as I say, that will be coming forward to you on July 9th.
Okay.
Member Bouders?
Hi, Charlie. Just had a question on the WeWork sign. Do we have a condition in that sign similar to what we did with the Sutter Health sign or the Stanford or Griffel signs, where we have a time when it has to be dimmed below a certain lumens?
Not a time, but there is the standard provision that the sign be dimmable and will be dimmed to the satisfaction of the community development director if it's determined to be too bright.
Is it a white sign?
It is a white, let's see. It's a black sign in the daytime and a white sign at night. I would note that we have not had any complaints about any of the high-rise signs, including the Tanium sign that was put up recently.
I know. I really wish we would have like maybe a general planning code rule. I'm not going to appeal this, Charlie, but I really wish we just had a rule that if we put signs on the peninsula that we should have something that requires that they dim to a certain amount at night, just because of the interfacing that it has with the estuary and all the feedback I get from the Audubon Society about how even though there's no complaints from people, it's impacting wildlife. And so that's my concern, is the impact on the estuary. I'm not going to argue with the Planning Commission. I just hope that in the future we could make sure that stays on the agenda, because it's a concern for me.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Any other department head reports?
In the spirit of full disclosure, the Village Greens, I pondered a number of other names and couldn't come up with one that I thought sounded better. So we went with your suggestion, unless you wanted to change it otherwise. So that's how it got there.
We've already approved it. We've already approved it.
I swear to God, it's because I listened to a lot of the Kinks when I was in high school. That's exactly what it is. Okay.
You didn't grow up in Connecticut.
No, I know I did not. Okay, future agenda item requests from council members.
Not an agenda item, but I will be working with the city manager. I'll be participating remotely next time. So we will need to work that out.
Okay.
Sorry, I was too far from my mic. Just going to say I'm working with the city manager. I need to talk to you about it. I'll be participating remotely at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, this is adjourned at 8:47.